Welcome to the Prosperity Playground, the podcast where business meets energetics, strategy meets soul, and prosperity becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Anna Lozano, mom, founder, investor, mentor, and energetics in business expert. This is your weekly activation to rewire how you think and feel about wealth, success, and personal power, because it's not about working harder, it's about regulating deeper, aligning stronger, and receiving wider. You don't hustle for your future, you calibrate to your higher self. Join me weekly for high-level conversations with the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders. True prosperity isn't just about money. It's about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth. Welcome to the playground. Let's build your most prosperous life. Welcome back to the Prosperity Playground podcast. Today's conversation is raw, it's real, it's authentic, it's vulnerable. I am joined by a dear friend, Lindsey Marie, the visionary founder of Powerhouse Women, bestselling author, investor, and master community builder. Lindsey has helped thousands of women break through fear, self-doubt, and outdated narratives about success to create the impact and income they were meant for. But here's the truth. She didn't start as the confident powerhouse leader you see today. Lindsey knows exactly what it feels like to stand in the gap between who you were and who you're becoming, to wrestle with fear, to wonder if you're too much or not enough, and to navigate the uncomfortable but necessary process of stepping into a bigger version of yourself. After walking through a season of profound transformation and change, she's stepping into a new chapter, unapologetically redefining what it means to own your power, trust your intuition, and build a life that's in full alignment. Her Powerhouse Women community, top-rated podcast, and annual event have become a global movement, proving that women go further together and that you don't have to have it all figured out to get started. With a mix of real talk, hard-won wisdom, and a little bit of humor, because let's be honest, life is wild, Lindsey Marie is here to help ambitious women everywhere step boldly into their next level selves. In today's episode, we dive into the identity, death, and rebirth that changed everything, finding safety in the unknown and doing the deep work, and receiving as a radical act of worthiness. Enjoy today's transmission. Lindsey Marie, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful you're here. You are just such an amazing support sister. You've been with me through the journey of scaling Love Powered Co., selling it, evolving into the coaching space. You've come into my masterminds. You're just such an amazing cheerleader and friend, and I just really honor you, and I'm so grateful you're here.
I'm so excited to catch up with you and do it in this way.
It really is like a live catch up. What better way to bring this? But we're actually going to dive in deep from the get-go because you've had a huge year of transformation, like truly profound transformation. And this is what you describe as a complete identity, death, and rebirth. So I'd love to dive into that, what you've experienced, and really what is the process of doing the work so that you can emerge as the evolved, embodied version of your next self on the other side.
Oh, I just love when we dive right in the deep end. That is the kind of conversation I prefer. And it's a hard question to answer succinctly because to give everyone a picture of how radically different my life looks today than it did just 1 year ago. Just a year ago, I was just grieving my first major loss, which was of a pet that we had for 13 years, my little soulmate dog. And, I was never really a pet person until this little being came into my life. And I'm so fortunate that I haven't grieved a lot of human loss to this point of my life thus far. So this really was the first time that I felt just that my heart cracked open in just feeling to the depths of love and loss in a way I hadn't experienced. And in this strange way, I knew I was kind of being ushered into a season where I just needed to be able to hold the ability to feel more. And I could tell that this loss in early February of 2024 was I thought this was going to be a major part of it. It turns out that was just like the on-ramp into being able to hold the duality of love and loss in such a deeper way. And, and then I went through a transition in a business partnership where it was a mutual decision, yet one that broke both of our hearts because we loved working together and we had to really honor that we wanted to go on different paths. And, then that added on top of everything that I was already feeling. And in the same week as I was processing this next loss is really what it was. I was grieving the loss of, the friendship, the version of friendship we had, the business partnership. Now I was grappling with, okay, what do I really believe in myself to like go all in on this vision that I know I have? And in the same week, I started to intuitively know and later confirm that my partner of 13 years, we were married 13 years, was having an affair. And so all of a sudden I found myself in this season where every single thing that represented safety and security was ripped out from underneath me. Wow. And the profound weight of that wasn't lost on me. That I think I had this intuitive knowing that you don't experience that kind of shakeup unless, on some universal level, you're just not accelerating fast enough toward the path you're supposed to be on. And it's literally like you have to be picked up, completely turned in a different direction, shed everything that can't come with you, and just trust that this was all unfolding in a way that I couldn't understand at the time. And so I could hold that knowing. I had a very deep knowing, even in the throes of navigating these layers of betrayal and grief and loss and ultimately choosing to divorce and do that as amicably as possible. But yet knowing that on the other side, I was being prepared for something so much greater. And I'm just now, 1 year later, starting to come into the embodiment of something I can feel, but I can't yet see. And so it could be cool even to go into the nuance of, you can have all the knowing in the world, but the real surrender is in the trust, this in-between period when you've let a lot go, you've let versions of yourself go, but you haven't yet fully embodied the next version of you, and you definitely aren't seeing the external results yet. Yeah. And this tension, it really is kind of like this cosmic tension where it's like if you can hold trust just a little bit longer than you think is physically possible, absolute miracles start to occur. I'm starting to see them like little glimmers of miracles, even like right now in this season. But then, and I'm just dropping a lot on you all at once, and then we'll circle back into any of this you want to go into. Now I'm confronted with, holy shit, can I allow it all in at once? Right. Can I allow the love that I want, the money that I want, the abundance, the success, when it comes to my doorstep, because I've done the work, I've excavated the wounds, I've gone to such depth, and we can talk about the process and what it actually looked like to do the work. But I realized just a few weeks ago, I was so much more comfortable being in the doing the work part. I'm far less comfortable in, no, let me just sit in the embodiment and integration of the work I've done and start to allow good things to come into my life. That sounds like the dream, right? Yes. But if you're not used to, if you don't have the nervous system wiring to be able to receive on that level, now I'm being confronted in a much different way, but in a way that's expanding me 10 times more. So that's just a light preview of what I've been through in the last year.
As a new podcast host, thank you for unpacking all this. Now we have to go deeper.
Yes, we can go into any of these rabbit holes that you want to.
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, thank you for sharing. And I just know so many women, myself included, who have gone through this 1 year to 2 year period of radical transformation that we all knew happened for us, yet was so uncomfortable in the process of it all until it clicked that the faith really landed. So that's where I'd love to go is, how did you find the safety in the chaos, in the unknown, in the shakeup? What were some of the processes, some things that you were doing? Because as my own journey was going through this after the sale of the company, right, there was this loss of business partnership. It was a loss of identity, and very different than what you experienced, but it was still grief. And so we experience grief in different scenarios throughout our lifetime. But I was called to go inward. And as someone who moves from one project to the next, from creation to this external successes, the work began on the inside. And it was so difficult because as type A successful women, we love to know that certainty piece of, okay, if I do this, it's leading me to this. And yet that's not the journey, because the unknown is where we have to find safety. And so I'd love to know, when you were in there, the inside, the middle, the messy, what was the process for you?
It's such a beautiful question, because I didn't understand until I went through this last season the role that safety plays in being able to manifest everything that we want. So I'm gonna take a step back, and then I am gonna answer exactly what that looked like, practically what I did, because the lesson I learned about safety, and you said it, being able to create space for the next level things we want to call in inherently requires that we learn to source safety when there isn't any safety externally. It's kind of the same thing as, and I've been having the same realization and conversation around abundance. I don't have to have an abundant mindset when there's a certain number of dollars in my bank account. That's not actually abundance, because my feeling, my internal way of being is a reflection of an external factor. I can see the money, therefore I feel safe. So I've been thrust into the opportunity to find safety in the absence of the places I was finding safety without realizing it. So the divorce, the entire process was a complete financial reset. I've had to sit with, no, what does abundance actually feel like in my body, regardless of my external circumstances? And the safety piece that came first is really what your beautiful question is setting me up to share about, because the reality is my sense of safety was so rocked for months. I mean, I'm talking like paranoid thoughts, behaviors, especially with an affair. And it was a surprise to me. It really blindsided me. This was someone who, while the relationship itself was not perfect, no relationship is, I never imagined that being something that we would deal with in our marriage. I really believed he was so safe. And so when the person, not just someone, the person that is the number one source of safety, which now I can see, the ways in which I outsourced some safety to him. And naturally you do in a committed partnership. You allow yourself to feel safe within partnership.
Well, isn't that the point of the marriage, right? Like, I'm just getting teary-eyed because we say yes to these commitments because of that level of safety.
Yes.
Woo. Yeah.
So in really understanding now, as I reflect back on the journey, and like I said, it was actually less than a year ago. It was early June that the full weight of everything that had gone on was revealed. And I don't even really remember those first 8 weeks. Because I was in such a panic of my mind, what it felt like. And I'm saying this because I want to speak to anyone who's gone through a major transition. We've watched people in the network marketing industry have their entire financial future like ripped out from underneath them. I've watched people go through relationship transitions. Maybe you lose a loved one. And I want to speak to this because I've learned a lot about what the brain does when it's in shock, what the brain does when it's grieving. And so, there was this period of time where I had no connection to safety. I had thoughts that made me just feel crazy. And in the relationship sense, it was, going as far as, is this person safe? Is he tracking my phone? Is he, and none of that was true at all. But like, to go to such an extreme, what it showed me was the depth to which like my mind was completely in shock, which is a part of the grieving process. And I was doing anything that I could to find my footing again. So what I had to start doing is number one, I've always been, and I'm someone who, fitness and exercise and movement is a part of my life. Mindfulness is a part of my life. I already had so many tools, and I'm so grateful for that, because I had to really pay attention to how I was feeling. So I did a lot of walking. I could only handle very slow movement. I could do no weight workouts. And I just had to really honor how my body felt. I could only eat really simple foods. Like for weeks on end, I would eat, this very simple breakfast. I could only stomach like some chicken and roasted sweet potato. Like I had to just simplify, because my body was processing trauma is what it was doing. And then there was the part where, and I want to speak to this as well, because this is one of the things that I'm most grateful for that I was willing to do, is anytime I had a thought of an action I could take that would numb some of the pain, I did the opposite. For example, drinking. It would just have been so easy to call up a girlfriend and say, hey, come over, let's drink wine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't at all want to demonize that behavior. Sometimes we just have to cope the best way that we know how. And those behaviors will never get you to the healed place that you're really searching for. So I intuitively knew, and I am I'm a Capricorn, I'm a Scorpio rising, so death and rebirth is just literally my jam.
I'm a
so
Scorpio
I think there was
rising
a part of me.
too.
Okay, perfect. So you get it, right? That's why you're having this conversation with me. So for example, when I was I remember just being so overcome with feelings of grief and like sobbing for hours. And there was a part of me that was like, let's just take the edge off. Let's have some wine. Nothing wrong with that. But I was like, no, I want to feel it all, because if I feel it, I can alchemize it into something else. Yes. And there was just this deeper knowing that while it was the most excruciating experience of my life thus far in 41 years on this earth, if I could do the opposite of like the reactive behavior that I wanted to get like some immediate gratification, which included like, I didn't show up at all on social media. I didn't want any validation from external. I went in. I know that's kind of intense to share, just like the really the depth of how I embraced this, but it was all very intuitive. It was all grounded in this question. This is a great question just to share with everybody. So much of what I realized had not gone wrong, but where I had abandoned myself in my relationship, and how I had found myself in this position is I just abandoned myself over and over and over, and I betrayed myself, and I looked at everything through the lens of who do I have to be so this person never leaves me. Yeah. And then to be faced with the reality that this is a person who has free will and they can choose to leave anytime they want, I turned that question back on myself, and I lived every day through the lens of what is loving to me right now. Wow. Like, what does it look like to show myself love right now? And it did look like, okay, it wouldn't be loving to me to drink wine right now and just like numb the pain. That actually wouldn't be the most loving thing, because I know my soul is here and craving the depth of whatever this season is trying to tell me. So just that question, if you're in the throes of something that is absolutely earth-shattering, it's asking the question, what is most loving to me, but not bullshitting yourself on the answer, because sometimes the thing we think is the most loving is actually an attempt to not feel.
Yes.
But that's okay too. Like, give yourself, if you have to give yourself a balance of some not feeling so that you can come back and fully feel, because the fully feeling is how you actually move through everything that's coming up in order to be released.
I think that's the golden nugget here is, I feel if you didn't go to that depth and truly allow yourself to feel and grieve this process, we wouldn't be having this conversation 12 months later. Because in the grand scheme of things, you have been through a traumatic experience, and allowing yourself to go so deep. And I have goosebumps, like, this is for your community. You are a master community builder. And we know that, yes, there's the external social media and the success and the events and the books and the things, but this is life. And all of us are going through our version of grief, of loss, of transition, of transformation. And if you're listening to this podcast, or if you listen to Lindsey's podcast, we all signed up for this. We said, hello, I am raising my hand in this lifetime for my soul to evolve. And how am I going to navigate this? So I really love so deeply what you shared, and I'm really grateful, because it really is going into the feeling, because the easy thing is the thing on the other side that you didn't choose. It is having numbing, anything that's numbing for you, alcohol being a simple way to numb. When did you start to see glimpses, and what were they, of those miracle moments that universe, God, whoever you believe in, was, hey, I got you. I have your back. Keep going, because what you're doing is manifesting so that you can come out of this on the other side as an evolved leader for your community.
I mean, just recently, and even those are, I believe there's still just breadcrumbs to keep me moving in the direction of deeper healing, because now in this phase of the journey, like I shared, the healing looks like examining my relationship with receiving. It's a complete rewire of my nervous system, the way I operate, to allow more good things into my life that I don't have to work hard to earn. You know, a lot of that conditioning and programming, a lot of religious programming that's being unwound in the realm of, you know, all the things that I want, the deepest intimacy and connection and sexual relationship with myself, with a partner eventually, and abundance that goes so far beyond just physical money. But I know I'm here in this lifetime to be a facilitator of really great wealth, that the level that makes me uncomfortable, and realizing how much, especially money and sex, being raised in the church, we're part of this shadow belief that I'm bad if I want that, much less have it or work toward it. Just even wanting it is bad. So I say all that to say, anyone else who's kind of in this transformation journey, I was just talking to a friend the other day, actually my former business partner, who we got to have like a, you know, this deep and soulful reconnection after a year of both going through a super deep process of our own, to come back together. And she said, she's like, I'm tired. I'm going through so many layers of death and rebirth. And I feel that too. So what started to happen, and I want to speak to this part because I am a Capricorn. I do love to see results quickly. So I just thought, you know, I remember just looking around like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for my...
I felt it. Give me the evidence.
And what I would get is like seeing repeating numbers everywhere. I have like, I had so many experiences where I'll never forget, after like one profoundly difficult conversation, I was on a walk in Scottsdale where I live, you know, the middle of the desert. I remember I'm walking around this lake, just like letting my nervous system like process the adrenaline I was feeling after, you know, I was starting to show up as a version of myself I'd never been, speaking my needs, you know, being compassionate, but fiercely loyal to myself first and foremost. And that was very uncomfortable. It was very activating for my nervous system. And I remember going for a walk, and it was kind of like the catalyst moment as I started to, it hadn't even gotten to finding out about the affair yet. And I'm in the middle of Scottsdale, walking around this, it's a man-made lake in this beautiful path that I would love to go and walk on. And I see an older gentleman with a long lens camera. He's kind of like scurrying around, and I'm like, what is this dude doing? And I kind of come around the lake where he was, and he said, do you see it? And I said, see what? He said, the bald eagle. I said, a bald eagle in the middle of Scottsdale? And, you know, something in me just knew. Now I'm looking up the spiritual meaning of any bird that I see. But there have been so many signs. Like, if we're looking for them, as we start to tap in to the guidance that is present, I didn't need to see anything more than when I felt internally. And then I was seeing these little signs, again, I don't have a relationship with like, oh, when I see 333, it means X. It's just these things that, like, in the moment, I know that is my team that's on the other side saying, like, you're going in the right direction. We've got you. Just keep moving forward. So I've had to allow those things to be these little glimmers. And then the other thing is, you know, I found out about the affair and like the extent of it, and knew I was going to be filing for divorce in early June 2024. And as you know, I host a women's event. And it was in August. It was exactly, you know, 2 months after the date that I essentially, found out my entire life was changing. And so those 2 months were just such a blur, and I just had to go inward. I only let the closest of close circle know what was happening. And I could only work sometimes an hour a week. Like I'm not actually exaggerating. I would get on a meeting with my team, make sure everything was taken care of, was supported by just the most incredible team, and especially Natalie, who works with me, is a godsend in terms of how she showed up for me in ways I didn't know how to ask. But I want to preface this to say, filling an event is a big lift. It's a big effort. Most people are having trouble filling events in this day and age. Yeah. We had 600 people at the 2023 Powerhouse Women event. Come into 2024, now I'm down a business partner. Yeah. I'm grappling with the weight of the change in my life. And I didn't have it in me to show up on social media pretty much from March all the way until August when my event happened. And this is the last thing I'll share in terms of like seeing, and I felt the lesson in this for me was that if I can just really surrender to this undoing of my former identity, which thought she had to earn everything and work so hard. And, if I could really surrender to the fact that I'm supposed to be on a journey of becoming, and then the things that I'm going to see externally are going to be a reflection of that. I showed up, as we got closer to the event, I started to realize we had grown by about 40% year over year. We had 800 women in the room. Wow. And I didn't show my face on social media for 6 months leading up to it. Now, the business still took a really big financial hit. So I want to be honest about that. Mm-hmm. It was a complete financial reset. My energy wasn't in my, selling my offers and things. So we took about a $200,000 hit financially, but it didn't matter because I saw that there is something so much greater that I am blocking. I'm blocking my ability to receive. And so now ever since then, and as I've been processing through the new layers as it relates to letting go of the relationship, I'm in this new season of really exploring, like I said, my relationship to receiving, because I feel like that was my confirmation that there's so much more for me to receive. It's just going to require me to operate in a way that's very uncomfortable for me.
Because it's in a way you've never done
right?
before.
I've never done it before.
Yeah. So what does that look like? One is, this is also such a common thread in terms of receiving, because women, we're just natural givers and we love to support, and we're moved into these moments of discomfort where there's no other option but to allow ourselves to receive. Because it didn't come for you from a decision of, okay, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to take a few months off of social and I'm just going to receive. My team's going to run this event, as is my community. And that's how it happens, rather than us saying like, I'm actually going to put these things in place to receive authentically, abundantly, and overflow. So one is, why do you think we've been operating this way? Really, receiving is abundance. And yet we naturally push it away for all the conditioning that comes with it and the programming. So one, why do you think that's happening? Why are we doing this? So bringing awareness to the why behind it. And two, like, how can we finally start to embody this receivership? Because there's a few laws that come into place, and we know universal laws, they're coming into play. They're not going away. And so when we give and receive, we support this natural flow. When we don't receive, we're actually hindering the people that are trying to give to us. We're hindering the flow of the universe. Yet it's not natural for us. So I'd love to talk about the receivership piece, because it's something we must embody. It's no longer a thing we choose to do. We have to.
Yeah. It's so beautifully said. And I'll be honest, I feel so new into my own exploration of it. So this might be most helpful, because I really only have this elementary understanding of something I know I will have the opportunity to learn deeply in this next season that I'm entering. And I had talked about receiving before, even in my community, and I think the first place to look to make it really, really simple and practical is the daily practice of noticing where you have trouble receiving in a couple of specific ways. What do you do when people give you compliments? Is your first response to downplay it, to share something like not complimentary about yourself? Like an example would be like someone would say, "Oh, your hair looks great." Like I just got my hair cut yesterday. And if I'm like, "Oh, it's all frizzy," I say something to the negative. I can't just say, "Thank you."
Thank you. Receive it.
So how do you respond when someone is giving you, that's an energy exchange. They want to give you a compliment. How do you respond when someone offers to help you with something? Or when someone says, "How can I help you?" Yeah. So I just started to play this little game with myself. This was even starting a few years ago, of noticing my own patterns around that and adopting new patterns to help me override the conditioning, and where that conditioning came from. We can get into that in a moment. So if someone compliments me, I'm only allowed to say thank you. And I'm not allowed to turn it around and immediately give them a compliment, because that's the other way we deflect it. "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty too." It's like, no, actually let it in for a moment. And notice, especially if you are someone who like right away you want to throw a compliment back, just let yourself receive a compliment without giving one back. Yeah. Notice how uncomfortable it is. And then the other game I started to play with myself is, if someone offered to help me, I had to say yes.
Love it.
Or if someone said, "How can I support you right now?" I had to give them an answer. So example, we have the best community on the planet. Now, as we head into event season, people are like, "Oh my gosh, I love the event so much. I'm coming and I can't wait to be there. What can I do to help? Do you guys need anything?" Normally I would be like, "No, we actually, we have it handled. We have an amazing team." But I just started to be like, "Actually, would you share this one specific reel to your Instagram stories and link the tickets? That would be the most helpful." Amazing. Like just giving them a way that they could contribute to me and allowing them to contribute to me. So, what is a small way that you can, and maybe even come up with a list in your mind? Because for me, when someone like just directly asks me, "How can I help you?" my mind goes blank. I'm like, because I don't even know, I'm repatterning so much of this, even knowing what my needs are. So it helped me to actually write down. I was like, okay, I could ask someone to leave, if it was like a business context, I could ask them to leave a podcast review. Yeah. I could ask them to share about the event on social media. Or sometimes I'm like, I'm just in the mood for some words of affirmation, because then it's like a double whammy, because now I have to accept a compliment. It's like, "Hey, would you just share with me in a few sentences how Powerhouse Women has impacted you?" Because that actually is something that like is really powerful when I get to receive it. So make a list of ways that you can practically receive, and play this game with yourself. If someone offers to help, let them. Yeah. If someone's like, "Hey, can I carry that for you?" And you're like, "I'm like Miss Independent Woman that just does everything myself." I'm like, "Yes, you can." Exactly. I remember when I was starting to play with this energy, I pulled up to this gas station. I was talking with my therapist about it, and talking about like really even how this plays into masculine and feminine energy. And I pull into this gas station, and I'd never seen this ever since I had lived in the last time I saw this was when I lived in the Midwest. I remember my mom would go to this full service gas station where someone would come out and pump your gas. So I pull into this gas station, and I see there was a sign that said full service. And I remember being like, "Okay, I see you, universe." So I pull into the full service side, and I'm kind of waiting, and then like no one's coming. And then I get out of the car, and I'm like getting out and then I see this older gentleman, like we're talking like 80s, kind of slowly walk over, and he's like, "Oh, can I help you?" And everything in me wanted, now I see he's like an older gentleman. It's hot out. I'm like, "No." And I said, "Yes, you can. I would love that." So Jerry pumped my gas. Yes. I felt like it was like my grandpa pumping gas. But I just noticed like, wow, that was so hard for me to receive. So noticing those little patterns that we all have. And then truly, this is like it's going to be a simple answer to a deep question. Why we resist it is generational. Yeah. And it's so ingrained in us that until you go on a deeper healing journey, you're not going to know the answer for you. But it's almost always tied to our sense of self-worth. We have to feel worthy to receive. Yeah.
And yet, as women, we've been so programmed to give, right? We're natural nurturers. We give, we take care of others, family. I think this is a beautiful point. Is number one is the awareness. Like, how does it make you feel? I realized for me that when someone supported me right away, I felt like I had to support them back. Yes. Right? Like you leave a review on my podcast. Well, right away, I have to leave a review on your podcast. right? It was that. And so we need to, again, be reminded of the law of reciprocity, right? We give, we receive, and it may not come back in the same form. This is what I'm trying to teach my kids. They're 7 and 9. And just to live by these laws. But first we have to allow them to feel safe. Comes back to the safety in the nervous system in our body. Because if not, we're, whatever it is, to whatever degree, we're going to block it subconsciously.
So true.
You're the visionary behind Powerhouse Women, which we've spoken about, a master community builder. I'd love to know the vision that you hold for your community. Where's it going? Because you as a leader are transforming and you're still, you're still on the journey. And I mean, this is a lifelong journey, but you have this deep awareness of where you're moving. So how does that come into and tie into Powerhouse Women?
That's such a beautiful question. I am just starting to get glimpses of how my own personal journey is going to shape the future. And, to anyone who's been a member of the community, especially like very much in programs that I lead, I'm having conversations like this all the time. On the surface, I think it's easy for people to see the fun, the glamour, the amazing speakers. And it's all of that combined with the depth of this conversation we're having today. Because, I believe that the reason I created it, I created the thing that I was also looking for. I created the thing that I was on the journey of embodying. And last year we went through a rebrand process because why not? Of course, when my entire identity is being dismantled. I was like, let's rebrand her. And we did this deep work around what it actually means, what Powerhouse Women actually means. And so I'll share this because it's a beautiful reflection to your question. We pulled apart this word powerhouse. And the word powerhouse actually dropped in for me. I was in a spin class. I had just finished writing my book. My book ended up being titled Powerhouse Woman, just one, and then went on to inspire the community and everything that came. And I remember rejecting it initially because it just felt like it held so much power. And I wasn't embodied in that power yet. So I know what it feels like to be on the precipice of really big change. Maybe it's change that you are welcoming in, that you are going in search of, right? So when we start businesses, whether we realize it or not, we're embarking on a personal development journey. It's just disguised as a financial opportunity. I think that's why I love working with entrepreneurs, is because they are on a personal growth journey, whether they realize it or not. So this word power is like the embodiment of your true, most authentic essence, what you are meant to bring to this world. And it is the most powerful version of you. There's just such depth and richness to that. That is what Powerhouse Women exists to awaken in you, to reflect back to you, to give you a place that then when we go to the second part of that word, house, we did this was probably like the part that brought the vision full circle in ways that I had never been able to put words to. When we think of what a house is, what a home is, no matter what your experience growing up of home was, what home is meant to represent as a concept is the ultimate place of safety. Yeah. It's the ultimate place of security. It's a place where you can be your fullest self and be celebrated and seen for that, but it's also a place where you can be vulnerable, you can come undone, and you feel safe and seen in either one of those states. There's room for both. So Powerhouse really represents that. And women is the community piece, because I don't believe that we're meant to do this journey alone. I wouldn't be where I am today. I have one good, really close girlfriend. Her name's Aisha Marshall. Everybody should follow her. She created the Butterfly Season Transformation Journal. She's deep in this work, and I tell her all the time, she walked so we could run. Like, there's so many of us who really followed in her footsteps on this healing journey, because when you share and when you heal openly with people in your life, you get to experience the breakthroughs that their breakdowns are producing. You don't have to go through all the breakdowns yourself, but it's also vulnerable. So it's like it takes commitment, it takes consistency, it takes intentionality to cultivate, to connect with, and deepen those relationships. So I know that that's what Powerhouse Women stands for. I know that there is nothing I love more than creating live transformational experiences like the Powerhouse Women event, or we have these more intimate retreats for high 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs where we go deep into this transformational work. But beyond that, again, as a Capricorn, this is very difficult for me. I'm not getting a lot of super clear direction. Right. I'm moving forward in my own journey of becoming, knowing that, and intentionally listening for. I'm getting little glimpses, but it's not fully formed enough to say, okay, here's where we're going. I just know that it's the most potent creation that this version of me could possibly imagine. And it's a reflection of, it's the reason why I had to go through what I went through. Yeah. And I think it's meant to really support those who don't realize that their own transformation journey is going to keep nudging them, and maybe it's going to come right to their doorstep like mine did, and they're not going to feel like they really had a choice in it. But we always have a choice with what we do when that moment arrives. And I want to be there in support of helping people to deepen their own experience of themselves through this transformation journey. And I also can't wait to see what that's going to look like.
And it's so beautiful because, I mean, we've dropped astrology in here. We know we've shifted from Piscean age into Aquarian age. And this is why so many of us, like I would say our communities, maybe 90%, and this is just pure speculation, feel this way. They're going through growth and transformation because, again, we've raised our hands and said, like, I'm signing up for this in this lifetime. And we found community within so that we can support each other. And you talk about collaboration and community as strategy for, I mean, self-evolution and business evolution and all of that. So this episode is releasing right before Powerhouse Women event 2025. So I kind of want your prediction, especially if there's still people thinking like, should I go? Like, absolutely, you need to be there. But how is this year going to be different than the last few years? What's your prediction?
Well, I'm completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm the human portal that this work comes through. So, you know, last year was a tender year for me, I think for a lot of us. Yeah. It was a year to remember and to be in community with women who are saying yes, they're raising their hand to say yes to this journey as well. And whether that looked like grief or loss or just really declaring the next level for themselves, it felt so healing in a lot of ways. And I'm feeling a fire, I'm feeling a power, I'm feeling an action energy that is probably not unique to me, but it also has space for those who are just entering the part where they accept the invitation. There's still going to be just as much safety and community and support for those who are at the tender part of the journey. So I just think that with our event, there's a resonance. You know, if you're meant to be in that room, you just know. And you know, your logical mind might be fighting you on, oh, it's just last minute, and it's investing in myself is really uncomfortable. I know, but if you're meant to be there, your soul will not let you miss the opportunity. Yeah, yes, basically.
And I have to share too. So one of my dear friends, Kira Foy, her and Renee Warren were at your event last year, and Kira was going through a very tender stage, and the transformation she experienced, actually specifically connecting with Jamie Kern Lima in this divine synchronicity, because we know nothing is coincidence. She said this event was worth it based on that maybe 2-minute interaction. Completely transformed her and gave her again that inner knowing to continue on the journey that she's on. And now she's speaking of being on the other side. But it's those micro moments, those micro opportunities that you speak a lot of, that as we allow ourselves to move through them, we build our self-trust, the trust in the divine, and our own self-confidence to continue moving forward. So thank you for the work that you do. And it was so beautiful to witness firsthand one of my dearest friends going through that and the transformation on the other side.
She is such a powerhouse. And that's, the coolest part of all of this, maybe this is like a beautiful way to bring this together is I am just like all of you listening. Yeah. I don't have any of this figured out. I have more breakdown moments than I have breakthroughs. I may look really confident on the outside, and as much as I feel so embodied when I'm on a stage and when I'm in my purpose and in my power, that is as true as the moments that few people see, because they're the private moments where I'm doubting myself and I'm really in my own shit, because I am one of the most committed people to my own evolution. And now that I see, once you confront what was for me one of my biggest fears, losing my marriage, specifically to the type of betrayal that I experienced, that was one of my greatest fears. And seeing who I became on the other side made me kind of dangerous, because I'm just not as afraid to confront the things that my ego is trying to tell me I should be afraid of to keep me safe. Yeah. I don't need safety anymore. I need liberation.
Yes. Wow. I need liberation. That you're seeking the freedom and the peace that comes with knowing that you are enough versus the external safeties that we spoke about. That also is huge awareness, is paying attention to where are you outsourcing safety rather than just going inward, because this is our greatest source of safety. Thank you so much for this raw, real, authentic, vulnerable conversation. Like, I'm just so deeply grateful, and I just know so many will resonate with it because of the season that, again, so many are moving through. Is there anything that I might have missed that you'd love to add before I move into my 3 final questions?
I'm just basking in how great it feels to be in sisterhood with someone who is on this journey too. And that's the only thing I'll say is, if you're listening to this and you are feeling so alone in this journey, I want you to know you are not. You haven't met the people yet who are going to walk alongside you, support you, remind you of who you really are. But start to put that intention out there. They are there. They are closer than you think. We do have to put our effort into and our intentionality into connecting with them, but you are just so not alone. And I hope, if nothing else, listening to this conversation makes you feel really seen and understood.
So beautiful. So my final questions, your future self. So Lindsey, 20 years from today, what is she telling you, Lindsey, today?
I think she is telling me, you didn't realize it at the time, but you could just have had so much more fun. Like, yes, you're going to get a lot done, but you could have had a lot more fun. I'm trying to really embody that in this stage of the journey. Is it just doesn't have to be as serious as I like to make it.
Yeah, we all just love to make it so serious. We become adults and then everything just becomes so serious. So what are some ways you're having fun and infusing joy into your day-to-day?
Oh, well, I go to these hip hop classes. Ooh. I loved to dance as a kid. And so bringing back a lot of the things I enjoyed in childhood, leaning more into creativity, art and painting. And I'm not doing it to try and be an artist, so it's infusing creativity that has no business purpose attached to it. And for me, one of the things that's always brought me the most joy is dance. So yes, going to dance classes, but then even just like movement, like turning on music and moving in my own space on a daily basis. It just actually, and I'm a generator in human design. So like, it's one of those things that immediately like raises my frequency when I incorporate it. So that's been a lot of fun.
So good. What are you feeling deep, deep gratitude for in this moment?
I say this not to sound enlightened. I am deeply grateful for the last year. I wouldn't change any of it. I needed it to happen that way. And I think that's the hard part, knowing that on the flip side of it is a person who I care deeply about, my former partner, who, is at his own, having his own experience with his own shame and not necessarily choosing to go down the path of healing, but to realize that I needed for him to choose those actions, because it wouldn't have triggered the exact wound that I needed to heal if it didn't happen that way. And I think that's something that few people can really understand and grasp. but it had to happen that way. I wouldn't have become the version of myself that I am sitting here and talking to you had it not unfolded in exactly the way that it did. And that I hold deep gratitude for. I hold deep sadness for just the weight of knowing what an invitation it also is for him, and not at all being able to control if that's an invitation he accepts in this lifetime or not. But I don't think he'll ever really know, because I don't think it's really appropriate for me to share at this stage of where our relationship is at, just actually how grateful I am for exactly how everything happened.
Wow. And a reminder that whatever you're moving through, if you can just hold that within your heart, that what if it's happening for your greatest evolution. And finally, what's your definition of prosperity?
Just ultimate freedom to be my authentic self.
So beautiful. Where can everyone find you, Lindsey?
I love to play on Instagram. I'm kind of slowly coming back to Instagram. My personal handle is Lindsey Marie Official. And then Powerhouse_Women is the community, the event, all of that fun stuff.
Get your butt in the seat, even if it's last minute.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun.
So much for your depth and for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Prosperity Playground podcast. If this convo sparked something in you, be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts so you never miss your weekly activation. If you enjoyed the conversation, please rate and review. Your feedback helps us reach more souls just like you who are ready to calibrate to their most prosperous life. Know someone who needs this frequency boost? Share the episode to Instagram and tag me @_Anna Lozano so we can grow our energetically aligned community together. And please remember, true prosperity is about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth today. See you on the next activation.